This is really the heart of our food operation. So we'll first have you gown up here.
At the lab, they've been testing the meat looking for traces of dangerous E. coli.
Right, so what they've done is they've taken, a standard frozen turkey, and these were actually purchased over Thanksgiving, and then culturing the bacteria, the E. coli. When we say that there's E. coli on a turkey product like this, we want to know that it's definitely E. coli, and we want to know if it's the E. coli that can cause bladder infections or kidney infections or blood infections.
20% of the meat they tested had this bad E. coli on it, and a third of that was highly resistant.
So this is an E. coli from the food supply, and it's resistant to 5 different antibiotics. So it's resistant, 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 resistant. So that's 5 different antibiotics that a physician can't use to treat an E. coli infection.
Wow. But what Price really wanted to know was whether any of this bacteria had caused those urinary tract infections at the Flagstaff Hospital.
This is where we grow bacteria from patient specimens. This is a person that has gram-negative bacteria.
So he got the hospital to send him more than 1,200 samples of urinary tract infections they'd collected from patients.
So this is where we've stored all of the samples that we've collected from this study, including thousands from the food supply and thousands from urinary tract infections that we collected at the hospital. We have these tubes, and we said, okay, let's look at the DNA from the E. coli from the people. Let's look at the E. coli from the DNA from the E. coli and the food supply and say, are these matched?
By using state-of-the-art whole genome sequencing, he compared the samples he got from the hospital with the bacteria he found on supermarket meat.
So this is all the E. coli that we got from the food supply and from urinary tract infections in Flagstaff. So what the computer's doing right now is it's figuring out how these things are related to one another.
Price is only halfway through his study. It has yet to be peer-reviewed, but he let us in on his preliminary findings. So far, he says he's genetically linked more than 100 urinary tract infections back to supermarket meat products, and a quarter of them were resistant to several antibiotics. For Price, this supported his hypothesis that some of the dangerous urinary tract infections were coming from the food supply.
So here's evidence that these E. coli, the E. coli in the urinary tract infection, the E. coli in the food, came from the same original E. coli population, so probably the farm.
Probably the farm, but you don't really know how it got there, right? That's a bit of a guess.
When we see this, when we see such genetic relatedness like this, the alternative explanations become, impossible.